Greetings from Grace Ministries at Rafa, also known as Trinitarian Grace International. And thank you for being here with us today, Sunday, July the 24th, 2022. And we're having a Zoom meeting primarily today. The guys at the facilities are not able to participate today because of some COVID concerns, but we hope to be back with them live in a week or two, hopefully. So anyway, we just kind of stuck with each other, and of course this will be recorded, that they can we'll be able to, if we can show it to them later or whatever. And we do record our meetings, and we appreciate Pastor Anthony from Kenya for joining us today. Good to see him, and all our others. And Paul is, like I say, he's waiting on the youth group meeting to start. And I'm going to share something today. I hope I don't step on any toes or my own toes, but you know how I am. Got a few verses I'm going to share today, and I'm using the Message Bible today. Of course, they have it. That's the only thing about the Message Bible. They'll take a verse this long and turn it into half a page, but that's okay. And I'm going to start out with a book that does not, a verse from a book in the Bible you don't really hear quoted too often. And it's the book of Amos. We baptized a guy a few weeks ago. His name was Amos. And I was teasing him about being Amos Moses. So you'd have to be from Florida to know about that one, I guess. But anyway, Amos was a shepherd from a small town in the northern country of Israel at the time. And he was called by God to speak to the religious leaders of that day and the political leaders as well. And I think what he talked about certainly applies to the religious leaders and political leaders today. And I'm going to share with you from the Message Bible. This is really something. He says, I can't stand your religious meetings. I'm fed up with your conferences and conventions. I want nothing to do with your religion projects, your pretentious slogans and goals. I'm sick of your fundraising schemes, your public relations and image making. I've had all I can take of your noisy ego music. When was the last time you sang to me? Do you know what I want? I want justice, oceans of it. I want fairness, rivers of it. That's what I want. That's all I want. Oh, Lord have mercy. That nurse steps on some toes, doesn't it? Today, there's a lot of the quote churches today, they get together, and it is a lot of what they just said there. But it's like, I got some notes here to go along with that. It's like they had forgotten, and I think a lot of people today have forgotten the heart of God. The heart of God is love and oneness and inclusion, as we preach about in this ministry a lot. They forgot about the heart of God. Justice, not piety; mercy, not empty offerings; righteousness, not loud singing. The guy here talks about how we worship is not important. Where we worship, not important. What media we use, not important. Do we show that love in God, love of God? Do we show that we love God in our worship? That's important. Do we love our neighbors? That's important. I hope I'm making sense with what I'm saying there. I'm not trying to bash anybody. I'm just saying, when's the last time, some of the things that I read, when is the last time when you sing a song, were you singing it to God? When's the last time when you spoke to a friend, spoke to a group of people, spoke to a big audience, whatever the thing is? When was the last time that was done as if you were talking directly to God? Now, I know I try to do that, but there's times we do things, we get caught up into just a pattern of doing things, and we forget all of it's to be done for the glory of God, to show people and to display to people the love of God, not just to put on a show, not to bring in large crowds. Now, I know we all have ministries and churches going on, way back in the back of your mind somewhere, even if it's not in the front of your mind, you're like, oh, look how many people we had this week. Look how many people we had. We've done that. This little ministry here, we got caught up in that game for a while. We did. We were starting a church, and man, we were just trying to get people to come in. We were trying, and we did it a few times. For us, we filled the building up. It was full many times. But somewhere along the way, I think it kind of came obvious to us that we were not doing what we were called to do. And what I mean is, we were called to do what we're doing now, to speak to a specific group of people, to help a specific group that God is using us to minister to. I know, if you like titles, I titled the sermon today, or message, is focused on the goal. And what is that goal? Well, I think the goal is to show the love of God, to show that it's not about putting on a show. It's about speaking to God. When I speak to you, I need to realize that I'm speaking to a being that has the presence of God living in them. We talk about that a lot in this ministry, that we all have the Spirit of God in and around us. Not everyone, maybe this group here realizes that, but there's a lot of people who do not realize and are not aware that they have the presence of God in them. I think that leads to a lot of frustration. I think that leads to a lot of maybe anger and even sadness, and things that we call depression, and things that we call anxiety, and all that. Philippians 3:14 from the Message, matter of fact, had a subheading. It says focus on the goal. And boy, this sounds like this is me right here for real. I'm not saying that I have it all together, that I have it made, but I'm well on my way reaching out for Christ, who has so wonderfully reached out for me. Friends, don't get me wrong. By no means do I count myself an expert in all of this, but I've got my eye on the goal. I'm off and running, and I'm not turning back. So I'm not an expert on anything. One of my old mentors told me one time, Rannie, you know what it takes to be an expert? And I said, what's that? He says, have a briefcase and be over 50 miles from home. He said, people will think you're an expert. But anyway, I've been that kind of expert many times. I want to stay focused on the goal, and my goal really and truly, my goal is to love everyone that I come in contact with. Oh, that sounds real good and churchy, right? Oh, I would love everyone. Try it. That's not as easy as it seems, is it? We say, I want to love everyone I come in contact with. I want to love everyone because that's what the Lord teaches me, to love everyone. Stay focused on that. That's not as easy as it seems, is it? We run into people that are not so lovable. And I don't know about you, but I have at times, and probably sometimes now, am the person that's not so lovable at times. You know, we can be difficult. We can be frustrated. All of us have these issues, but we can be on our way. Reaching out for Christ is what we need to do. Reach out for Jesus Christ, because guess what? He's already reached out for us. You know, I got a note on somewhere it says the upward call, if we want to reach out for Jesus, he reaches out for us. And what does he want us to do? What does he want us to do? He wants us to live a life that requires commitment. We have to be committed. This thing I just said about loving other people and everyone we come in contact with, that takes commitment to even attempt it. I know we fall short often. I know we do. I don't, you say, well, I don't. Well, yes, you do. You can be watching television and the news come on and they report some kind of horrific crime or some kind of political idea that you don't agree with, and things will start coming out of your mouth. Does it not? It starts coming out. You know, they are taking, I've heard this one a bunch. I've seen things on the news where someone's committed some awful crime, and I've had people said they'll take him out behind the courthouse and shoot him. That's being real lovable, right? Now that may be what that's what I'm talking about. In this flesh, in this body, those are the kind of things that just flow out of us. I saw something interesting on the news this morning, and I'm not saying that I'll be able to do it, but there was a man who, there's a guy on death row in Alabama scheduled to be executed here in a few days. And he killed his wife years ago, and he's on death row. His deceased wife's brother and her two daughters were on TV asking the governor to overturn his death sentence and just let him serve his time in prison. And they were saying, look, it still hurts what he did to us. It still hurts that he killed our mother, our sister. Man, but they said, you know what the man said? He said, but we forgive him. We don't condone, but we forgive. And we don't want him to die, because that would just cause pain to another family. I'm telling you what, those people were really impressive to me. That would be awfully hard for most of us to do, right? But I think that is the Christ that I'm talking about. Obviously, he doesn't condone evil acts of murder and such. I mean, that's obvious. But you know, those people, instead of hurry up and kill him, I hate you, all that kind of stuff, they were saying, yes, your act hurt us deeply, but we forgive you. There's something to that. There's something to that. Colossians 3:12 through 14 from the Message Bible says, and this is for me and you. So, chosen by God for this new life of love, that's what I was just talking about, dress in the wardrobe of God, picked out for you, compassion, kindness, humility, quiet strength, discipline. Be even tempered, content with second place. Quick to forgive an offense. Forgive as quickly and completely as the Master forgave you. And regardless of what else you put on, wear love. It's your basic all-purpose garment. Never be without it. I like the way that is worded in that particular version. Put on the wardrobe. You know, we get up every day and we decide what shirt we're going to put on. We decide what we're going to wear. with that kind of thing from what we have to choose from. It's the same way about an attitude. We have a choice, believe it or not, of what attitude we're going to wear today. Because, we can get up some days we're not feeling so good and we can be grumpy and gripey and all that. But, if we take the time to slow down and seek the presence of God, the awareness of God, Father, Son, Spirit, and realize the presence of Jesus Christ right there in me can calm me. And I've done this when I take time to do it. When I take time to do it, when I really actually realize what's going on. And as Keith said, attitude is everything. Attitude. We can talk all this good talk on Sundays or Saturdays, whenever your quote group meets. We can talk all this good talk. But are we living it? Are we putting on that wardrobe every day? Are we showing compassion as we should? Like those people I talked about? Are we being kind to someone even though they're not behaving exactly the way I want them to? Am I displaying humility? True humility. I don't mean being humiliated. I mean humility, as we know, is not the same as humiliation. In this version, it said, content was second place. What about that? Are we content with second place? Ask an Alabama football fan. No, we don't appear to be. But I get the idea here. We don't have to be the top dog in every situation. We don't have to be. Sometimes the best leaders, well, not sometimes. You know who the best leaders are? Excellent followers. People who've learned to become very good followers tend to be excellent leaders. That has always been that way. We don't always understand that. And people that are not very good at following sometimes get put in leadership positions and they're awful at it. They're awful at it because they've never understood what it's like to follow a course of action. And that applies to, quote, we, quote, Christians or followers of God. We can't just be talkers about, I sent that thing out recently that I borrowed from somebody else, and it showed a picture of people beating this guy. I mean, they had him on the ground, beating him with a Bible. I grew up around some of that. It still goes on around now. People take their Bibles, and I know what happens in the United States. It goes on on the African continent. It goes on everywhere. Some people use the Bible as a weapon to beat people with. You're a sinner, you're going to hell, all that kind of stuff, and they just beat them up. That's not the God that I worship. The God that I worship says, my words are written here to encourage you, to teach you how to be more like me, to be like Jesus Christ. Boy, that's a challenge too. But that garment, every morning we put on that garment, which in reality is our attitude. Putting on the right attitude every day. Now I'm telling you this, hoping that I'm making some sense. Am I always real good at this? Absolutely not. I'm not always very good at it. I'm better at it than I used to be. But I do know this to be true. When I try to start out my day with a good attitude and putting on the wardrobe that God provides for me, I have a better day, and I think I have a better impact on those around me. Lastly, 2 Timothy 3:10-13 from the Message Bible. And this subtopic says, keep the message alive. You've been a good apprentice to me. This is Paul talking about Timothy, his little protege Timothy, who he had trained. You've been a good apprentice to me, a part of my teaching, my manner of life, direction, faith, steadiness, love, patience, troubles, sufferings, suffering along with me in all the grief I've had to put up with in Antioch, Iconium, and Lystra. And you also know that God rescued me. Anyone who wants to live all out for Christ is in for a lot of trouble. There's no getting around it. Unscrupulous con men will continue to exploit the faith. They're as deceived as the people they lead astray. As long as they are out there, things can only get worse. Did you hear what he said? We've seen these preachers on TV that have conned people out of a lot of money and different things. And we're like, oh, they're kind of like the guy we see on TV. We need to take him out and beat him or something. It says right here, they're as deceived as the one they lead astray. It's not just the ones that's being led astray, it's the leader who is deceived as well. We are to pray for the leader that's leading people astray, as well as those, we'll tend to pray for, oh, that poor little old lady, he beat her out of all her money. That is wrong. That's unscrupulous. But we're supposed to pray for the person that did that too, because obviously they've been led astray to even do something like that. Don't you see? Don't you see? Because sometimes you go look in that mirror sometimes and think of the unscrupulous things you may have done in your life. Think about it. Let's not be judgmental. Let's be loving and caring and concerned. And this, just as Paul's talking to Timothy, he's saying, hey, you've been a good apprentice to me. We all have apprentices around us. We all have people who are attracted to your leadership. I don't care if it's your children, if it's people at work, if it's other people's children, there's always people that are particularly attracted to your leadership. You don't have to be the guy that brings the message every Sunday or whatever. You don't have to be the boss at the company or at the facility or whatever. Just be who you are. A chosen, as I said earlier in one of those verses, chosen child of God. Realize that you are chosen. Every one of us. And we all are ministers. We all have ministries, and we're not, listen, there again, I mention this a lot, that Doug and I have talked about, or he's kind of talked about some. I have nothing against you or anybody or any church or any ministry to try to do better and try to expand their influence. As long as it's not empire building. And a lot of times people want to put the light on the hill, like the lighthouse, right? The lighthouse is flashing. They want to put the light on the hill so that people can see where to come. Okay, that's a good thing. That's the lighthouse. You hear all kinds of sermons about the lighthouse. And that's all fine and well, and it's good when looked at like that. But if you're the lighthouse and you're a distressed boat and you're trying to find the shore, you love it when you see that lighthouse. But what if you're floating around out there drowning? You don't have a boat. You're not worried about a flipping lighthouse. You want somebody to come out and get you. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes you can't just be the light. You can't be just a stationary light. You got to shine the light out and go out to where the light shines. For instance, those of us in this ministry, Grace Ministries, when we can, we go to where the guys are that we minister to. They can't come to the light. The light has to come to them. You get my point? I hope I'm not, and I'm not against, my wife loves lighthouses, so I'm not putting down lighthouses, of course. And there is a concept for that that's that makes sense. But it also makes sense that we have to go out and share that light. Sometimes instead of a lighthouse, we have to be a flashlight. And we have to go with a flashlight and shine it into the dark corners. Because some people have lived their life and they've ended up in a dark place, a dark corner. And they're not going to come out of that corner until you shine the light on them and encourage them to come out of that corner. I hope that makes sense. That's the way I had to do many years ago. I had to come out of that dark corner I was in. And Jesus himself, I know, is the ultimate light. And we, every one of us that live with an awareness of Jesus Christ in us, we are bearers of the torch. We're bearers of the light. And just remember something. Those that carry the light, that carry the torch to others, you're always under the light, which means people are always watching you. Some people are constantly looking for ways to say, I knew she wasn't serious. Oh, I knew he wasn't a real Christian. You understand what I'm saying? But we are bearers of light. We carry the torch. We're always under the light. So anyway, in closing, Paul, was talking about Timothy. Everybody here has been a protege, and everybody here has had people that look up to him. So that's, in my opinion, it's a little message that I have, whatever I called it, focused on the goal. What is the goal? Focus on the goal. The goal is to see Jesus Christ in the mirror. To see Jesus Christ in the mirror, that's where it starts. How in the world am I going to see Jesus in you if I don't see Jesus in me? Because if I don't see Jesus in me, I'm probably about halfway not even going to like you. You know what I mean? Because we have trouble liking one another as it is, because we don't behave. We want people to behave the way we want them to behave. But if I'll learn and grow, and I've said this many times before, look for Jesus in the mirror, it makes it a whole lot easier for me to see Jesus in you. And when I see Jesus in you, it sure is more pleasant, is it not? And I do see Jesus in people around me now. There's some people I bump into, it's a little harder to see, but it's there. I just, they may not be behaving that way when I meet them. But I want to remind myself to have the attitude that Jesus is always present. The Spirit of God is not gone anywhere. It's not way off out there. It's not hidden behind this furniture in this room here. It's right here. It's right here in me, and right here in Shirley, right there in every one of you, and all around us. This computer screen I'm looking at would fly into pieces if it wasn't for the power of God holding it together. So anyway, we have to see love in myself, and I appreciate what Keith has sent me a message. We do have to love ourselves because I just think it's really, really almost impossible to love others if I don't learn to love myself. I may talk a good game, but if I dislike myself and I'm holding burdens against myself, it's going to be tough to share that love and to see that love. In closing, Father, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for allowing us to get together through this Zoom message. I appreciate all of you coming today. I pray for the guys at the facilities that are sick and that protect the ones that are not. I pray for each of you who have struggles in your own families. And I pray for every one of us as we walk away from here today is to learn to love and to see you, Lord. Every time we look in the mirror, let us see you looking back. Help us to love ourselves so that we may love one another. Amen.